Hello, everybody. Tamara here for another With Tamara Ghandour podcast. Hey, a couple announcements I want to make before we dig into my fold the paper theory today. Number one is we have some great Everyday Innovator guests coming up. I'm really excited about them. They've done some pretty phenomenal things, everything from scaling mountains to building businesses. And I think they're going to give you a lot of insight into how to leap forward, how to seize opportunities, and how to be strong everyday innovators. They've got some great insights. I'm excited to release those, so stay tuned for that. So today's podcast is actually in response to a question that was sent to me via text. So let me go ahead and read that to you real quick, because I think this was a really good question and I wanted to kind of address it. The question says, "Hey, Tamara, love your podcast. John here. I'm wondering, I feel like I think I'm being innovative and I think I'm doing things differently and I'm being disruptive and all those cliche words." I'm with you, John. But then I look at the results and I think maybe I'm just not being innovative enough. Can you help me just wrap my head around what does it mean to be innovative? Or how do I know if I'm actually headed in that direction? Okay, so that's a great question. And I want to answer it one with a thought and one with an exercise that I think gives you a bit of an aha. I know the first time I went through it, it kind of blew my mind, actually. So here's my first thought, John, for you is if you think that what you're doing is either adding to the noise, when you look at it in retrospect, right, you've done your thing that you thought was so innovative, to only realize that it added to the noise and added to the clutter, then you're not innovative. If you realize that the thing you're doing help you differentiate, rise above, stand out, then it's probably innovative. If you feel like what you're doing is barely moving the needle, giving you incremental at best, then maybe it's not innovative. If you feel like what you're doing is comfortable and easy and not pushing your limits or your business's limits, whatever kind of it is you're working on, then chances are it's not innovative. Here's the reality. Just because something is innovative doesn't mean it's going to be successful out of the gate. That's a myth that we live by of like, oh, well, I did something creative or innovative, so obviously it's going to work. I wish I could say that was true. Here's what I will say is true. Your chances of being successful are greater if you start from a place of innovation and being an everyday innovator. Why? Because that's where you're doing something from a place of peak performance. That's where you're doing something that's going to be probably different than everybody else, challenge assumptions, push limits, find those little adjustments that are going to make the big difference that nobody thought about before. And remember, innovation is thinking differently about what's right in front of you to create an advantage. That's the definition that we curated over at Launch Street that we believe very strongly in. And it's the definition that makes innovation accessible to everyone. It democratizes innovation. And we've seen time and time again with the people that we work with that are in our community that that definition allows them to see opportunities to innovate big and small right in front of them. So sometimes that innovation is small. Sometimes it's big. It doesn't always have to be this big blue sky thing. But if you're feeling like, I don't know, Tamara, I'm not sure if this is really cutting it, then I would really sit down and have a talk with myself about, is this differentiating? Is it rising above? Is it creating an advantage in some way? Am I moving the needle? And if it's not, maybe it's time to reassess. Now, I did say a minute ago that not everything works. And the reason I mentioned that is I don't want you to say, well, it worked or it didn't work, so therefore it was innovative or it was not innovative. Something can be wildly innovative and fail. It can also be wildly innovative and succeed. Both of those things are possible with a lot of variables causing that. You have a greater chance, though, of success if you start from innovation, as I was saying. So great question, John. Let me give you an exercise that actually, this is for everybody that I want all of you to do. No cheating and looking ahead on the video if you're watching on YouTube. And this is an exercise that the first time I did it kind of blew my mind around what it meant to really think differently. So if you are looking for that big leap, that big aha, that thing that's going to change the trajectory, not the small little innovations, super powerful. But if that's not what you're looking for, this is the exercise for you. And I will tell you in full disclosure, whatever you want to call it, I've had a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, self-talks lately, trying to figure out like what's that big thing that's going to take me to the next level. I've gotten to a certain level, but the variables in the marketplace have changed. My clients have changed, the needs have changed, my passions and my interests have maybe not changed, but they've evolved. And it's gotten me really thinking about like, what's that big thing that I get to tackle next? I'm a risk taker experiential. So I'm always being bold, always wanting to do things. And so I've had to have a lot of conversations with myself lately, or just a lot of thoughts about, well, what's next? What's next? I love what I do. I love the impact I get to make, but I wanted to do something big next. Like I wanted that next big thing on my horizon. It's just how my brain works. So someone I was talking to, a mentor of mine, took me through this exercise, and it blew my mind. And we were going through this exercise. Let me give you a little bit of context to the conversation. I said to her, I just really like, I feel like it's right there in front of me, but I can't figure out, but I want something that's going to really make a big impact. That's going to really move the needle. I want something that's going to help create that leap to the next level, not just a little bit of a growth. And granted, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people who get a lot of little growths and get very successful, but I want to leap. That's what I want. That's what I desire. That's what I deserve. And she said, all right, Tamara, are you thinking big? And I said, what do you mean? Of course I'm thinking big. I'm Tamara. And she said, no, but are you really thinking big? And I thought about it for a minute. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, maybe the reason you haven't figured out that thing isn't because it's not right in front of you, isn't because it's not possible for you, and isn't because it doesn't springboard off of what you've already done, but it's because you're not thinking in a way that's crystallizing this big leap, this big opportunity, this big innovative thing. So she said, do me a favor, on a piece of paper, on the top left, draw an A, and on the bottom right, draw a B. So that's what I want you to do, or write a B, an A, and a B. That's what I want you to do. I want you to take a blank piece of paper, and on the top left, I want you to put an A, if you're watching this video just like I did. And on the bottom right, this side you can see it better, yeah. And on the bottom right, put a B, opposite ends. Then she said to me, which is what I want you to do, all right, Tamara, I want you to draw the fastest way to go from A to B. Draw the fastest way from A to B. So I thought about it. And in fact, if you're listening or watching and you want to do it, I want you to pause this right now and do it. I want you to pause and go from A to B. See what happens. See what you do. The fastest, she said, I want the fastest route from A to B. She said, because what you're saying is you're an A and you want to get to B, right? And B is bigger and bolder and innovative, and you want to get there quickly, right? You don't want to waste time. You don't want to go incrementally. You want to like just leap right into the deep end. Like, yes, that's what I want. So pause this, by the way, do it yourself, A to B. I'm going to tell you what I did. I started at A, and I thought, well, is this a trick? Like at first, I kind of created a curved line down to B. I'm going to show you on the video. And I was like, well, that's stupid. That's not right. I was just thinking maybe there's like some visual trick to it, right? So if I curve it, an arrow, so I thought, no, obviously the direct line is just a direct path, straight from A to B. Okay, my drawing isn't very straight, but you get the point. A to B, straight up. So that's what I did. And that's what I showed her. And she said, no, Tamara, there's a way faster. And I thought, faster than straight line. In my head, I'm thinking, well, A to B, right? I'm at A, but I'm clear about B. I know where I'm headed. I'm going right there. So in my mind, this straight line made a lot of sense. And then she goes, no. And I couldn't get it. And I couldn't get it. And I'm in innovation. What I do all day is think differently. I wasn't, whatever it was she was looking for, whatever way that was faster was a bigger leap, I wasn't seeing it. And then she did this, okay? She took the paper, A to B, and she folded it edge to edge. So A and B were one on top of the other. And then she poked a hole through it from A to B. And she said, no, Tamara, That's the fastest way from A to B. She said, you need to figure out how to fold the paper. She said, you need to stop looking in a straight line ahead of you and start getting way more innovative and figure out how to fold the paper. And I've never forgotten that. So every time I'm trying to do something and I want to, I'm a big leaper. I want to leap right forward. Every time I'm thinking about what's next or a decision I need to make or trying to, like, if I need that big win, I think to myself, okay, how do I fold the paper? That's a different mindset. And it's not to say that the small wins along the way aren't important. They are so important. They add up. But there's a mindset behind fold the paper. How do I fold the paper? And every time I start to think about that, the brain opens up, my best brain gets unlocked, and that risk taker experiential inside of me starts to go to work. And I start to see ways around and through and over the obstacles I face, and the way opportunities are actually totally within reach, where I thought they were going to be that straight line really far away. Fold the paper. So the mindset that I want you to have, and the question that I kind of want you to just ask yourself all the time is, how do I fold the paper? How do I make A and B right next to each other so I can get there fast? How do I do that? And this is not about, to be clear, this is not about shortcuts and cheat sheets and all of that. This isn't a cheat sheet. This is a different way of thinking. I kept thinking in a straight line. I kept thinking straight line, straight line, straight line. And what I realized in this conversation was the straight line is great and it's going to get you there. There's nothing wrong with it. The straight line takes you from A to B, but folding the paper gets you there faster. So I keep asking myself, am I folding the paper? Am I folding the paper? What's the fold the paper opportunity here? And I love it because that visual is so clear in my head every single time. So clear. And to me, it's a much more proactive approach to tackling life and tackling work. So instead of waiting for that line to get drawn out from A to B, I'm not waiting for anybody. I'm going to fold the paper. Fold the paper. All right. If I haven't said it enough, I can say it again because I want it stuck in your brain. Fold the paper. Are there ways you can fold the paper? Ever since hearing that from her, I have time and time again asked myself, like, what's my fold the paper moment here? What's my fold the paper opportunity here? And it has done things like got my company into Disney, kind of thinking about fold the paper ways of getting in with them. It has gotten me book deals. It has got me conversations with a movie house. That's a story for a whole nother time, where they bought an option for a book I wrote. Story for another time. But my point is, fold the paper. That's the mindset. And that's the question I'm always asking myself. There's always a fold the paper way to do something. And that's what we can never forget. All right. Tamara out.